Well, it's a story that's been hanging out there for a while. It's an interesting story. It involves state government, ethics violations, and possibly a criminal investigation. And one of the people, and also my litigation, the cabal of crazy, as I like to call them. So joining us in studio to talk about what the heck is going on, Abdul, what are you hitting at, is our good friend Erin Sheridan. Erin is the former special advisor to Lieutenant Governor, Micah Beckwith. So we say Micah Beckwith, you know it's going to be interesting. So Erin, thank you very much for being with us. How you been doing?
I've been doing okay, Abdul. How are you?
I never knew a black man could be so happy these days. And by the way, Erin and I, we've known each other for years and years. We go way back when we both had more hair and less stomach.
Yes, that's right.
And it was all the same color. It's all a color now, but it was like.
Are you talking about me or you?
Oh, me. Let's sort of go back to the last election, 2024.
Yeah.
Mike Braun became governor. Micah Beckwith became lieutenant governor. You were in state government. You worked for Suzanne Crouch for a while. Also worked for Tim Berry in the auditor's office. You have a long history in state government. So how did you come to know Micah Beckwith?
I met Micah. I had talked to Micah on the phone, but I actually met him the day of the convention. So the Republican convention.
And how'd that interaction go? Tell us about that.
The interaction was he was two people in front of me in line, and you know how you go, like how they curve, the line goes in and out like a Wendy's or whatever. I was in line and I recognized him, and so I introduced myself to him, and I was like, hey, good luck. It looks like you have a lot of support, and you know, Rob Kendall has sung your praises and, you know, wishing you well. And he was like, yeah, you know, nice to meet you. And it was really interesting because in his acceptance speech, he made a reference, and he actually texted me as if it were a reference to my nephew who had died by suicide. And I thought, well, that's touching, that's polite, that's nice. Because under Suzanne Crouch, mental health awareness was a huge initiative of hers, and which in return became a huge initiative of mine. And especially since I had a personal story attached to it, and you know, wanted to see some changes made in that arena and the kind of funding that we got, like real government stuff.
So let's fast forward. Micah Beckwith wins the nomination. Mike Braun becomes lieutenant governor. Mike Braun becomes governor. Micah becomes lieutenant governor. So how did you end up working for Micah Beckwith, even though you originally worked for Suzanne Crouch?
So the next day after the convention, I want to make that clear, Micah called me and said, hey, here you've been in government forever. Here I'm going to, you know, there's a lot that I need to learn, a lot that, you know, I don't claim to know it all. And would you want to be my chief of staff? And I just paused and said, well, it's not that I don't want to, but let me see if I want to work for you. You know, I didn't know him. And so he kind of laughed, and I said, what, like, you don't have a team set up? I mean, you just assume somebody who's running for lieutenant governor is going to have their own yeah, like we all, you know, come up the ranks, but we know who's who. And he was that green, and it was a little bit refreshing because he didn't have a team. He didn't have, you know, the
insider political class.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
people.
It was yeah. And and I also appreciated the aspect that he said, you know, I have a team of 3 or 4 people, and my campaign manager, he was like, I don't, you know, want to exclude them. I want to be loyal to them. They helped get me here. And, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, that I don't offend them or, you know, screw them over. And I said, I totally get that. And I love that. I mean, that's a attribute that I think is, you know, charming.
We're talking to Erin Sheridan. Erin is the former special advisor, or senior advisor, special advisor, an S with an advisor attached to it, for Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. And so we're talking about just sort of what's been going on with the Lieutenant Governor's office lately with the videos and the whole 9 yards. So you guys are sworn in, you know, doing the job. How are the first few months? How do the first few months in the job go?
Well, I think that we need to go back a little bit
Okay.
because I was advising his campaign. And I think it's interesting because I was donating my time. And so, you know, Tony Samuel, he and I were trying to like get this team ready to come to the real world and to be ready for what's going to happen once you're in office. And really, I kind of went on my own little political, parade myself saying, hey, listen, I know how dirty politics can get. I know everyone is, this isn't who we all picked. And Julie McGuire was, that she was the one who we thought was going to be the lieutenant governor, the candidate. And we just ended up, we knew that they had a lot to learn. And they just, looking back now, they just were not accepting our advice. And they also were claiming that they, too, were donating their time. But that kind of means something in this world because you think, all right, good, we're investing our time in this guy. We're going to invest our time in, their ideas and their vision. Not all of them I absolutely did not agree with, but I thought Micah had a certain charisma about him, and, he stood out to me. And I felt like that was something that in our world we could work with.
So when did things first start to go south?
I would probably say right after the general election in November, when it was obvious that they saw the dollar signs. Once they had no idea what the transparency portal was or how to look up salaries, or even they didn't even know that they were going to sign bills or preside over the Senate. I mean, that's how green these folks were. And so when I started explaining to them the duties of the office and the responsibilities and the everyday coming and goings, and there just was little interest in that. And so I sensed right away they're not here to govern. But then I realized they asked me, the Sherry Ellis, the current chief of staff, called me and she's like, "Oh, I've got good news. Micah wants to offer you this position." And I don't even recall what it was, but it was like an entry level position. And I said, I was the chief of staff for Suzanne Crouch. I'm not, no thanks, but no thanks. And I said, and I've had private conversations with Micah, and this isn't what he described at all. And so I'm going to go ahead, let me give him a call and make sure, I didn't misinterpret anything. And when I called him, he reassured me and said, no, like, you're the chief of staff. You're this, you're that. And, and I was even willing to say, okay, this is a red flag. Maybe I don't want to be the chief of staff. Maybe I just want to come back to government and do something good and maybe be even a little bit selfish and, they don't have an agenda. Maybe I can make some things that are important to me more important to them.
Our guest on the program today is Erin Sheridan. Erin is a former advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. And so we talk about her time working for Lieutenant Governor, and also this sort of AI fake porn thing that's been running around and people have been talking about. We'll get to that in just a quick second. So you're a couple months in. Well, okay, it's Inauguration Day. Beckwith sworn in. The legislature begins. Talk about that part, because I think the greenness is really, really, really showing when he took over with his role with the Indiana State Senate.
Well, I think on Organization Day, before he was sworn in that November, I was at the Statehouse that day, and I had prepared him, and so So much so that I suggested what he wear, knowing that there's a dress code, there's protocols in place.
So did you recommend the AI glasses?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean, and he came and he had on his sneakers, his white sneakers, and without a tie, and his tight parachute pants, whatever those things are. And the doorman didn't allow him to enter the Senate on the Senate floor. And he's like, well, I mean, I'm the incoming lieutenant governor, and I just like, I wasn't there in a staffing role. I was just there to be back in. And he just had little regard. And I said, I thought that I had sent you, the dress code. And he's like, yeah, but I'm going to change that. And I go, well, that's great. I'm all for changes, but let's wait until we change it. You can adopt different policies. You can advocate for whatnot, but this is what's in place right now. And, I think that was a red flag. And again, I probably thought it was somewhat charming because us who have been there for 25, 30 years and longer for others, they thought that it was flippant and rude, that he didn't take the time to read the rules. And I started then having a little bit of concern for myself because I'm like, I hope nobody thinks that I'm not advising and putting this guy in, harm's way. And it's not that I vouched for Micah because I didn't know him well enough, but I did feel like that he had earned the opportunity to come into this role and him not be sabotaged, and maybe we needed to be open to some changes. And I even had that conversation, with Governor-elect Braun, and said that I was just there to help. I mean, I'm sure that they were wondering, what the heck is this girl doing? And that just is the truth of the matter. I mean, and I knew then, I thought, you know what? Everyone is open about this. They're open about giving him an opportunity. Let's see what he can do. And he was handed a gift.
Now, was it an opportunity, or was it like, hey, let's just give him enough rope to hang himself?
I don't believe that. And right now, as I'm sitting here, I could see where somebody would think that. And Micah himself has even, I believe in his circles, has said, like, I'm one of them. I'm one of the establishment. But he knows that I'm not so sure if it's that I think if anything, Micah has shown me that maybe the establishment isn't so bad. Maybe there are some things that are just Democrat, Republican. These are the policies, and this is how we get shit done.
And when did you first realize that things were about to really go off the rails? And by the way, Erin Sheridan, our guest on the program today, we'll take out the S word.
Sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
Sorry.
It'll be good for the podcast, not for the broadcast.
So I don't want to hurt anybody who might be looking into anything.
And just so we know, there are I've confirmed this independent of you, that there are possible criminal investigations, grand jury stuff going on, and we're not asking you to do anything or say anything that will compromise any sort of criminal investigation.
Yeah, I don't want to do that for those folks.
Yeah, or put you in a sort of legal jeopardy. So I want to make that abundantly clear.
I did have to get legal counsel because I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into here. And maybe that was me being naive. I just didn't know what was happening. And I knew that it was going off the rails when he had on the glasses, the AI glasses. And I was completely frustrated because he had acquired, like, I had been arranging some of these meetings with legislators on my reputation and my relationships. And I had no idea that he was recording them.
And just so folks know, who may not be familiar with AI glass, those are glasses that basically you can record conversations and upload them to the cloud and the whole 9 yards.
Yes. And so I immediately, brought that to his attention. I know, and the environment there was as if we were on a reality show. And so that was flattering to Micah to think that, okay, this is what's, like, he wanted people to think they were being recorded. So I spent my entire time in his office as if I was being recorded. I mean, I just assumed since he was recording legislators behind closed doors, there really probably wasn't too many things that he wasn't going to do.
In that whole AI matter, I suppose my question is, did you confront him about it? Like, hey, I don't think you should be doing this, or just so you know that when you record things in the legislature, those are subject to open records requests.
Yes, and I even went so far to, because I know about public records, and I helped establish some of those policies years ago, and I know that he, when I did confront him on it, he's like, hey, you want to see something funny? And I was like, well, yeah, of course I want to. And he pulled out his phone, and it is me going, well, yeah, of course I want to. It was of me in that very moment had just recorded me. And I said, oh my gosh, Micah, like, this cannot get, we can't be sloppy. And I put myself in that like, this is ridiculous. I can't lose the trust of legislators that I've been, around for 25, 30 years. And them, I sure as heck hope that you haven't been recording them in these private meetings. And then once I started looking back on it, and I wasn't in those meetings, nobody was. And that's alarming. I mean, that, to think that, if I'm a legislator, or even the governor himself, you have private conversations, and you have, I would assume that you respect that if you think that it's private, then it's not being recorded. And you're going to respect the governor. And that was alarming.
Our guest on the program today is Erin Sheridan. Erin is a longtime friend, known her for years, former special advisor, senior advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, who's been surrounded in a bevy of controversy. And so Erin is telling her story about her time, what happened in Lieutenant Governor's office. Okay, Erin, let's get to the big issue, the AI generated porn video.
Deep fake. It's a new word that I learned. That needs to be a new word for. I apparently it's been around for a while. I had never heard it.
Just to get folks up to speed, at Who's Your Idol, done by the Mental Health Association of Indiana. I'm the MC. I do it every year.
Yeah, I was there.
We're all there. People, lawmakers show their talents. Some show some talents that they probably should kept hidden. Let's put it this way. There's a lot of hidden talent in that room, and a lot of the talent should remain hidden.
That's true. But there was one particular act that actually showed some real talent, I believe, and that was with Brooke Haggard and Hunter Smith.
And let's talk about Brooke Haggard. They did I was going to say they did like a country song or something like that, and they did a really great job, really nice job.
Lady Gaga and yeah.
However, that's where the deep fake video came in. Tell us your perspective of all that.
I thought that it was a beautiful performance, and I think the audience did too. And so that was that. Everyone went home. And the next day or the day after, I'm sure that somebody could nail down a timeline here. I was coming through the office, and I had been in session, and I heard, the guys in the office laughing, and, they kind of referred to me as the wet blanket, the one that kind of Debbie Downer. and which is really interesting because how long have we known each other? And that's like the least.
No, it's not.
They made me step up my professional game.
Debbie down a cocktail every once in a while, or down a beer.
Right. But yeah, I mean, and so I want to be a team player, and I've got a great sense of humor, I believe. And I said, "What's so funny?" And they hand me their phone. I've got to put on my readers, and I'm, excited to see. They always had crazy little
internet memes.
Yeah. I mean, I will say they're pretty. Micah's pretty modern in his social media skills and the folks that work for him, and he and so I look at it and I recognized immediately who it was and what it was, but I also recognized it was not real, but it was taken from something that was real that I had seen. I don't know if I would have recognized her if I had not been at the had I not seen it. And it was her singing, and it was I don't know how long it was because I handed it back, and it was her topless singing, and they're talking about how hot she is.
Now, when you saw that, like I said, I realized this happened so fast, so quick. I'm sure something in the back of my mind like, this is not good. This is not going to end well.
I mean, I said this is the kind of shit that's going to take all of us down, this kind of sloppiness. I mean, and I said, you guys need to, freaking grow up. I don't want you to have to get out your beeper thing. And they were like, what? I mean, kind of, they were, what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to be the fun one, funny. And I turned and I went to go get, I don't know, it probably was a legislative bill or something. And I come back through and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Did that just happen? And I said, hey guys, why don't you send that to Rep. Haggard? And if he's okay with it, I'm okay with it. And they were laughing, and they were like, well, even Micah thought it was funny. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Like, Micah saw this, and it just was, it went over their head, I'll be honest, it kind of went over my head until somebody asked me, well, what would you do if it was you or one of your loved ones? And I said, well, I hope that they make me have less wrinkles and and I'm thinner. AI it up all you want, but
Erin Sheridan with us, former advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. We're talking about her time in the Lieutenant Governor's office, particularly the deep fake video that's been floated around about Representative Craig Haggard's wife, Brooke, being topless at the Hoosier Idol performance earlier this year. Did you ever confront Micah Beckwith about this?
No. No. I mean, because I was told he already knew, and well, that's embarrassing. I did go to his chief of staff. I did not say, hey, do you have a second to me? I've got something to report. I didn't say any of that. I was the advisor, and so everything that I said was just giving them my opinion and from my experience. And I was in her office, and I said, hey, you might want to pay a little bit closer, come out of your office, pay a little bit closer attention on what's going on back there, because they all are new. The entire staff was from the church. I mean, these folks, they some of them had really good intent and were really excited and proud of themselves. And, and she's like, why is that? And I said, because they're acting like frat boys back there. They've got a topless video of a representative's wife. And she laughed it off, and she goes, of course they do. I mean, it just was everyday conversation. And I was like, that is what I've been trying to tell you all. Like, this is not a game. And and I, I wish that as a female that I would have been a little more protective of Brooke Haggard but I just wasn't looking at it like that. I was thinking, oh my gosh, these people aren't going to be around here much longer if we don't get this turned around. And so I just know that I left it at that. And then how I made assumptions, but nothing changed. So it didn't. So me sounding the alarm to her, to the chief of staff, no behaviors changed. They still, were, a little bit disgusting.
Let me ask you this. As the, first of all, there was a lot of controversy about, does this video actually exist? We'll get to my integrity and Rob Kendall's integrity being questioned. That we're lying. There's no video here. Blah, 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 blah.
We all know you two are thick as thieves.
Exactly. So I got to ask you, does the video exist?
Yeah, I don't know if it exists now. I saw it. I mean, I personally saw it on a phone. I'm telling you, I was. There were other people in the room. It's an open office environment. I think that if there's anything memorable about that, if somebody didn't see the video, they remember what I said, because what I said was unprofessional. It just came out, and I just knew this is going too far. I mean, I already knew about the glasses. I had known some other things that just weren't on the up and up, but were just sloppy, and it was concerning.
Erin Sheridan with us on the program today, former special advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, talk about her time in the office, particularly the controversies surrounding the deep fake AI porn video of Representative Craig Haggard's wife, Brooke. So let's fast forward. The video's out. There's talk in the Statehouse. We all know each other. It's kind of like junior high. Everybody talks. Everybody gossips. The whole 9 yards. Was there any sort of damage control? What happened to you? Tell us that part of the story.
What do you mean? I mean, so I don't know if it went any further than that. I don't know if Sherry approached Micah, or, I mean, I'm taking them for their word, and I'm taking it for what I saw. I mean, there was no intent on my end other than let's correct this. And
okay, let me rephrase that then.
Okay.
How about on the second floor, the governor's office? Did anybody ever call you in? Erin, what's going on? Josh Kelly, do you have a conversation with Mike Braun or any of those folks?
About the video?
Yeah.
No, it was kind of common knowledge. So it wasn't a well-kept secret, but how could it be when you're in the middle of an open environment and you're showing nude video of a representative's wife? I mean, it's not like they were being careful. These people aren't sneaking. They're doing it right in front of our face. And this is just a sliver of an example of how the office was run. And so I had brought up some concerns, but more of how can we turn the ship? I had private conversations with the lieutenant governor and asked him, let me help you here, because you've got to change your perspective and your behavior. Are these people or not? But they're so inexperienced, and they're inept. I mean, I don't think that they could run a garage sale.
So as we look, like I said, prospectively, obviously there are investigations going on. There's ethics investigations going on. I
don't know. So,
what can you tell us? Like I said, okay. When did you decide to leave the office? Were you? But this way, were you? They said, "Hey, Erin, you can leave through the door or through the window."
you know, I had been taking some time off because my mom was ailing in health, both my mom and my stepdad, and I kept them up to date, and they were very kind. They have this, they had the mentality of, you know, don't, like, your family comes first. It was, and I loved that about it. It was refreshing, but it. But yeah, so the day that I had made the decision with my family to remove my mom's feeding tube, within about 2 minutes of that, I got a call from Sherry and the HR person, and this was a Thursday, saying your services are no longer needed. And I remember exactly where I was. I was on 65. I was leaving Methodist, and I kind of laughed, and I said, now, are you terminating me under Governor Braun's policies or the Lieutenant Governor's policies? Because we never adopted a handbook or, you know, all of the advice that I had given them that we had done with other separately elected officials. They hadn't done any of that. So that was it. And I did say, if my mom were to pass today, do I get, are you guys going to honor my grief days, or, you know?
Bereavement days.
Yeah, thank you. And the young HR guy just, he was taken aback. I mean, he's new in state government. I mean, he had no idea what was happening. They had not asked anybody for advice. They had not gone to an attorney. They just were like, well, this is how we do it in the church, so let's get rid of her. And I really did not, I thought maybe they just, you know I made them uncomfortable because I pushed back, but I certainly wasn't trying to, I was trying to help them. And they, you know, they just said your services are no longer needed. And I knew too, like a couple minutes after that, I had a friend who, she told me that she had interviewed with them and was accepting a role. So I know it didn't have anything to do with the budget, and all of the things that, you know, you would say. And I also know that they could have just said, we don't like you and we're not this isn't working. And I would have said, okay, goodbye. You know?
Sounds like been post your time in the Lieutenant Governor's office.
What?
How you holding up now?
Oh, I'm really good. I unfortunately, my mom passed away last Wednesday, and so I had her funeral, and my stepdad is on hospice, and you know, I feel blessed that I've been able to spend some time with them, and I've had time to sit back and, you know, think about what had just happened, because it is kind of an unbelievable story. And I also so that was a Thursday when I had that phone call, and I just continued with my day. I was going between hospitals. And then Friday, I received a call from the Lieutenant Governor, and he wanted to make sure that I wasn't offended and that I knew that he and I, you know, were really good friends and what a good job I had been doing. And I said, well, put a press release out about it. And he's like, I'm willing to put a press release out that you're an exceptional employee. You helped us. You did this, this, and this. And I said, when's it going to be out? Like, send it right now. And he kind of laughed, and he said, well, I just wanted to let you know the reason for my call is because I wanted to let you know that my church is willing to host your parents' funeral. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
In that vein, would you go back So let me ask you, did Mike ever apologize for anything? Let me ask you that.
No, no.
Like, I'm sorry this happened to you.
No, I'll tell you, he said he wanted to make sure that I didn't feel like a failure. And I said, I don't. Do you? I'm kidding. Well, I kind of did say that. But yeah, no. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of layers to this story, and I think a lot of it will come out. And I don't even think it's that exciting, or I don't think that there's any conspiracy to this. I think that it is the inexperience. It's disappointing that anybody can put an R next to their name and claim that they're a Republican. I think that it's disappointing that somebody like Rob Kendall put his faith in a little bit of change, and how disappointing for him. I thought that Micah was going to do a really good job, but they had no interest in governing. They had no interest in getting a budget. They had no interest in any policies. They simply want to live off of government for the next 40 years. I mean, they've hit the hillbilly lottery. And I don't know if you've seen that show, The Gemstones. They are the hillbilly gemstones.
Our guest on the program today is Erin Sheridan. Erin is a former special advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. She's been sharing with us today her story about her time in the office when she came in with high hopes and high aspirations, and things didn't necessarily turn out exactly the way that she had hoped. Erin, one of the things that I noticed in this weird, bizarre story is how a lot of this stuff is sort of interconnected with things that you may not necessarily think are interconnected with each other. Anyone who's ever followed me on Twitter, Facebook knows I'm in the middle of litigation right now involving Mr. Jeremiah Tevabo. Used to be the head of the American Fair Board. We had to fire him for insubordination. David Waters, a South Side, whatever David Waters is.
So I was aware.
Whatever David Waters is. And then John Schmidt, former failed candidate for chairman, does a mouthwash podcast, had to sue him for defamation. So there's lawsuits for everybody. You get a lawsuit, you get a lawsuit, and you get a lawsuit. But it's interesting because, in a weird way, Micah is sort of tied back to all these folks.
Absolutely shocking to me. It's interesting what you find out in the cheat sheet, because I was aware, and I used to call them the Perry Township, crazies, because they weren't GOP, they weren't Republicans, they're disruptors. And it doesn't matter. They don't have a team. They're just there to disrupt. And so that they have a reputation. It's not a very good one. And I know that they're kind of the bullies of politics. And I think that I think the first little taste of actually witnessing it was the day of the property tax rally. And Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, she expected perfectionism. I mean, she had high standards. She was very professional, very businesslike. She and I went at each other's throats, and we challenged each other, but we still had a mutual respect of, okay, what the big picture is. And during that property tax rally, I see your friend who, the Haas guy, whatever, he's in there with a sign that, is depicting something about you. And then there's a bunch of them. And and when I say them, I mean the people who I just considered were like Perry Township crazies, but it was much, much larger than I ever knew. And when I asked Micah, why are these people running throughout the office? And he said, well, who is it? And I said, this Haas guy. Like, we need to kind of be careful, because I think, that he has felonies. And he said, "Oh, you mean Jeremiah?" And I guess that's his given name. And I had no idea. And he defended them and said, "Those are my friends." And, you know, he was rooting for John Schmitz, you know, for Marion County Republican chair.
I remember seeing the endorsement, so to speak, about Micah Beckwith saying that John Schmidt would be a great blah, 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 blah. Then John Schmidt loses like 65-35.
Yeah. So, but I really, I'll be honest, I did not connect the two. And even knowing what you were experiencing with them, I mean, I just saw some similarities. And then I started getting some harassing messages on Facebook, and I basically, from what I'm told, John Schmitz was upset with me about something, or Micah said something. I really don't know, but I didn't realize that this was Micah's
cabal
posse.
of crazy. As I have so labeled them.
Posse, that's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will say he's got a loyal following, but there's just not that many of them. I mean, I've learned a lot in the last year, and a lot of Micah's opposition is simply not opposition. And that's something, you know, state police and others can investigate and figure out. But I did it pretty much on my own. I figured it out, and realized that something's not right here. That they're not going away, but they're not there for anything good.
And it's interesting you label them as disruptors, because that's a perfect phrase to use, because they have no ideology, so to speak. I mean, whether it's, you know, political principle or, you know, money, it's just sort of, hey, we want to just go in and disrupt, and
that should be, you know, what Micah advertises himself as. Like, I don't believe that there's any real political agenda there, other than, I mean, and you can ask him. I mean, I don't think any of this is a secret. His goal is to take down the Republican Party. I mean, he's made that clear to me. And I said to him wait, this is what I've been working toward. Like, I want conservatives in office. And, you know, I think that I've told enough people that I don't think that it's the governor's job to actually have to make that statement, but the folks that are around him and other leaders in different positions could take a stand and say, like, let's push back on this and ask for more answers. And you know, how are you the Republican lieutenant governor, and claiming that you want you're supporting the governor and you're not? I don't see how that's not questioned.
Now, something I wanted to ask you, like I said, if you don't feel comfortable or just don't know, feel free to tell me. And Erin Sheridan with us for a few more minutes on the program today, former special advisor to Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. Micah Beckwith is a very charismatic evangelical Christian. That is his bailiwick. And I'm not a very religious person. I believe in God. God believes in me, and we just sort of that's our relationship. But I believe that Mr. Beckwith has made some comments that could be considered anti-Catholic.
Yeah. Well, not comments. He's not used to. I mean, they made it very clear. As I'm unmarried, these are the words: unmarried, childless, and contributing to the demise of society. And, you know, the lieutenant governor, it was somewhat of a joke that he wanted to get the governor and I in the same room, because the governor's Catholic, as am I, and tell us how wrong our ways were. And I don't wear my religion. I've never had to explain my religion to anybody, but it's nothing I hid. You know, it just wasn't something that's brought up very often in at work.
You think? Maybe if Matt Barnes stops by and, like, you know, the Statehouse chaplain, like, hey, you folks to go in here, need to talk, we need to minister.
But I had an appreciation for that, because I think wow, that hasn't ever been brought up. But I certainly don't feel like that I am contributing to the demise of society. And if he truly feels that way, why did he hire me? I don't know what the purpose was.
And speaking of religion, I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Micah basically asked God to do something to Rob Kendall.
Now, I did not hear this firsthand, but they wanted Rob Kendall removed from, Micah wanted Rob Kendall removed from the face of the earth. And it's really interesting me saying this out loud and saying it to you, because it really isn't funny, considering, you know, what's happened this week. And I even while it was happening, I took offense to, you know, the people who are there doing a good job in protecting Micah and putting them in harm's way. I mean, these town hall meetings, it's a joke. It's a setup. It's not real. And, you know, but what is real are those people who are with state police, and those people who are writing speeches and scheduling, you know, his calendar, and who are doing, you know, really their intent is doing really good work and making positive changes. And, you know, I think that we need to take a look at that.
Question: the vehicle. What was up with that?
So, you know, I think that they
More righteous gemstones.
Righteous gemstones. I mean, that's just. I think that they got a little high on their horse, and
or their own supply.
Yeah, I mean, it just was. It was, and I have to say, we walk in that building. That building is beautiful, and that you are in our state's capital, and you do take it for granted. And I do think that they were very excited and proud to be there. And I don't think that they were willing to listen to me when I said, your every move, you need to act as if every dollar matters. And I hate sounding like a politician, but the taxpayers come first, and all of this is open record. It's public record. And they had the mentality of not anymore. And I said that I don't even know how to respond to that, because we've never, you know, I'll admit it's not necessarily the most transparent state, but we did get an A+ rating in transparency, and you can find out anything. And those of us that have been there, we operate on the assumption that whatever we say could be, you know,
used against you in a court of law.
Yeah. And they feel like that they were above it.
Final question for you. Once this interview plays, I know you did an interview with Kendall and Casey. That'll be playing. This will be on our website, on our weekend radio program. The reaction from the Beckwith people, she's disgruntled, she's mad, she's ticked off, she's lying. Well, Rob Kendall and I have been accused of lying. How do you respond to the stuff that you know is coming? And leave it to the microphone.
I don't know. I guess I've been caught up in my own personal issues, you know, with my parents. And so I guess if anything, I'm trying really hard not to be jaded. I mean, that building makes you jaded. but there's got to be something good that comes out of this. There's got to be something good. I mean, if that's even like to show that, like, you and Rob Kendall and Casey, like, you all have a responsibility, and that's overlooked, and elected officials overlook that, and they underestimate you. And I think that they also underestimate the everyday state employees, those of us that keep things moving and going. And there's a lot of us, and we will be pissed. But my intent is for something good to come out of this, I guess. I mean, that was my intent with Micah. It's just too bad that it didn't go, and maybe it is going the way that they vision. I have no idea. I know that this isn't what I consider good governing.
Any final thoughts, final words?
Gosh.
That doesn't involve the S-bomb or the S-bomb?
Superman's podcast.
Leave your South Side. Leave your South Side.
South Side. No, I think everyone wants to see their government. I think for the most part, people want to see their government succeed. Nobody wants to see our lieutenant governor fail, because if he fails, we all fail. I think that the governor has been very gracious to him, has given him opportunities. I think that Micah exploited a lot of relationships, and even so much has caused a lot of unnecessary chaos concerning the property taxes. And, you know, he was kind of the middleman between Rob Kendall and the governor. And I think that there was a lot of misinterpretations and miscommunications. And I think, as Micah said, we played right into his hand. And I'm going to take him for his word at that.
Erin Sheridan, old friend, always great to talk to you. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.